Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
It's the Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 28. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. We have a special Go Gopher podcast this week as former Golden Gopher linebacker Mark Dusbabek of Faribault is set to join me for a conversation I promise you'll enjoy. That's especially true if you love the Golden Gophers, you love the Vikings, and golf. You see, Mark is a PGA Tour rules official. He's steadily risen up the ranks and now provides rules commentary on many of the televised PGA Tour events you watch each weekend. As mentioned, Mark is a Faribault native who lettered for 4 years for the Golden Gophers and was amongst the leading tacklers in the Big Ten. He still has strong ties to the community, although he lives out west. We're about to hear from him on all of that. Our Go Gopher podcast is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. You can get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. Our podcast is also sponsored by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at ChamplinInsurance.com. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast. You can also go back and listen to the Go Gopher podcast from weeks gone by. It's free to subscribe and free to listen. Our last episode included an interview with Big Ten Network anchor Dave Revson. We talked about Big Ten Conference expansion. It was a good one, and we invite you to listen to some fascinating college sports talk. This week, it's football and golf with former Gopher star linebacker Mark Dusbabek of Faribault. It's the Go Gopher podcast, episode 28. We'll hear from Mark, but first, a word from Tony.
Hey, Gopher fans, this is your State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. We are super excited to be part of the new Mike Grimm Show on Talk North. For the year of 2022, we will be donating $10 to the University of Minnesota Children's Masonics Hospital for everyone that calls our office or checks in with us online and mentions that they heard about us on Talk North and the Mike Grimm Show. We are really excited again that Mike came on board with Talk North. You can reach us at 763-421-4900. You can find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Again, 763-421-4900, or find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Roll the boat, Sky Yuma, go Gophers.
We are with former Golden Gopher linebacker Mark Dusbabek from Faribault, Minnesota, in the Go Gopher podcast. It's our pleasure. We're talking here in Burnsville, Minnesota. This is your home state, but not where you live now, but you're back in town. It's kind of an exciting week for you. We have to set the stage here. You're an official, like a referee in the PGA Tour, and of course the 3M Open is this week, and that's one of the tournaments you'll be officiating this week. So how good is it to be back in your home area and actually getting to do some work and catch up with friends and family?
It's always great to be back to Minnesota. First of all, thank you. It's I love being back here. It is home for me, but I haven't lived here now in probably 30 years. So but I have so many friends and family here, and I think I need to change my schedule and not work the 3M so I'm not as busy and I can just come back and relax and enjoy time with friends. But I'm trying to squeeze it all in. My wife is flying in Wednesday, so it gives me a couple days to try to hit some buddies before she comes in.
Right, that's always good, no question. Well, let's talk about your track to the PGA Tour, because I think it's always kind of cool in terms of hearing people's paths and where they got to where they were. And we're going to talk about the Gophers and the Vikings and all the great stuff, but I think let's talk present day and how we got to this point. You played for the Gophers from 83 to 86 after you graduated as a star player from Faribault, played with Houston, and then the Vikings, and then an injury sent you into the working world. So from that point, take us to how you got to this point here in 2022 as one of the top officials in the PGA.
And I'm still dealing with the injury. I had my knee replaced finally.
No kidding.
Yeah, after about 9 surgeries on it over the years, it still bothered me, so I got it replaced 6 months ago.
Is it better now? Do you feel a difference?
I feel a difference. I don't know if it's better.
You're not ready to go tackle Darrell Thompson yet, huh?
No. Could never tackle Darrell in the first place, so I just tried to hit him when I could.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so when I retired, and I was just having a conversation with my other former teammate, Pete Najarian, about this, that, Pete's gone on to a lot of success in the financial world, and I've always had a draw towards finance, and when I retired from football, I was looking for something to do and trying to find my way, and he and his brother were in Chicago at the Options Exchange and offered me a job down there, so I spent a couple of years down, 3 years down there with them. It wasn't really the greatest fit for me. I loved learning the business, but then I moved to New York. I was had other commitments personally that took me to New York, so I got an institutional brokerage job there, and then really wasn't finding my way there, and moved to LA. And I was sitting in a bar and talking to a buddy and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and decided that, as I look at myself and what I've always loved to do is be around golf. And I grew up at Fairways Country Club, and my dad had me out there caddying and playing in junior golf. And my whole family, my 4 sisters, we all played on weekends. We played during the day. We had junior golf lessons. I ran a couple tournaments when I was with the Vikings for charity, and so my vacations were centered around it. Everything was about golf. So I realized, hey, maybe I can do something in golf, but I really don't know anything. So one of my pros that when I was playing with the Vikings, I used to go to Braemar Country Club all the time, and Joe Grupner, his name. And I called Joe, and Joe put me in touch with the Minnesota Golf Association. The Minnesota Golf Association put me in touch with the Southern California Golf Association. Talking to them, I really don't have any experience, so I'll start as a volunteer. So I volunteered for a year, and then started realizing all the different avenues within the golf industry. You have the PGA section, you have the USGA, you have the pro side, and all the different tours within the pro side. You have the amateur side, and so anyway, I got my first job, and it was back in New York. So I moved back to New York at the PGA's Met section and worked a junior golf program for the inner city there. Kind of grew from there, and I went back to Southern Cal for 5 years and got hired by the PGA Tour.
And now you oversee many of the tournaments in terms of officiating and rules. And I want to ask you about this in a second in terms of just how, what that job entails. I think I read in an article that was written about you that there was maybe a book, too, that you read that follows something you love, and golf was
Do what
it.
you love and the money will follow.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a real-life story for you, maybe?
It is.
Yeah.
I read a book called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow, and I loved golf, and so I went into it for free and committed a year to it. And my first job, I think, was, I want to say $24,000.
Yeah.
And my second job in golf, I think, was $28,000. So, I didn't do it for the money. It's because I loved the game, and I loved giving back. I loved being a part of it, and I just knew everything would kind of work out. What I originally wanted to set out to do, because I've always had goals in my life, and I've always had direction, but I had a kind of a 10-year plan that I wanted to be an executive director of a golf association, and that never really happened. I wanted to stay in Southern Cal, but I was willing to go to Colorado or somewhere closer to where I was stationed in Los Angeles. I got offered the executive director job for the San Diego County Junior Golf Association, or the Junior Worlds, and I turned that down because I just didn't think it was the right fit at the time. But everything has worked out.
Yeah. And so now here you are as an official, and I wanted to ask you about the job? Because I think when you think officiating, you and I will watch football, and every play there's something to be called. Baseball, the ump has to call something. Basketball, every trip up and down. Is it similar in golf? I mean, are you actively viewing golfers, or is it kind of more of a, hey, I've got a question, and a pro golfer will come out and and ask you a question, or how does that work?
It's both. This is my 17th year with the PGA Tour now, so you have probably 8 guys work a golf tournament, and you cover areas. Well, first of all, you have your chief referee who oversees the whole rules competition side. You have your advance official who goes in a week before the tournament, and he'll mark the entire golf course. So that's where it separates golf from other professional referees, is that we actually don't have a set parameters for our field. We have different ones, and we have to define those boundaries. We have to mark those penalty areas. We have to decide what's going to be abnormal conditions, and we have to write a local rules for what's going to apply for this golf tournament only, this golf course. So we have that advance official do that, and we broke it up to where every official, there's I think 14 of us on staff, everyone has approximately 4 advances that they're tournaments that they kind of own and operate themselves. And then the other officials come in, and then you assign another official to set up the front 9, another official to set up the back 9. So that's also different from other sports, is that we're making it when you have a whole location that you don't like, or we moved a tee up for a specific reason, and maybe it's weather or related or something like that. So yeah, we're more involved with it. So then we would sit in an area and we listen to the radio. We have our shot link, which is part of the PGA Tour department, and they have their walking scorekeepers who notify us if there's a ruling needed in 3 fairway, and you go out there and ask the player what's going on, what's happening, what do you need help with. Otherwise, you sit there and it looks like you're sitting under the tree and trying to stay out of the sun, but however, what you're doing is you're actually watching and monitoring play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so your pace of play is a big deal. Depending on the field size, you're always watching and monitoring pace of play. My job has shifted quite a bit now in the last year and a half, so I don't do as much of that on the golf course as I used to, but it's the core of probably our officiating business.
Is to make sure that the pace is going, and
the pace and setting up the golf course and handling rulings in the field.
Gotcha. And I would think that there are, I suppose you have a few guys on the tour that are maybe, there's a red flag. These guys are notoriously slow, so maybe you keep an extra eye there, and guys that are fast. And sometimes if they get paired, I'm sure there becomes some conflict. So how do you handle a situation like that when you have to go, tell a team or a twosome or what have you that we got to get rolling here, guys?
In fact, before you got here, I was looking at my phone because I had an email come through. Is that the field for the 3M, and it notifies me of who's on our observation list. Who are the people who are over the 45-second limit that we allow to play a shot? So we can highlight those people and keep an eye on those people coming through. We already know who they are, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that just confirms on the times. These are all time stamped as far as when they're playing. Listen, it's just business. I've had to go out and time a friend of mine, Tim Herron, when he was on our tour, and his caddy was complaining about how they shouldn't be timed, and Tim just looked at him and said, "Hey, man, he's just doing his job." So
right.
That's just part of the job.
And then I suppose the other, one of the other, I shouldn't say the other, but another part, we see this, sometimes you'll show up on TV, right? And in fact, Spencer Tollickson, who I do basketball games with on the radio, former Gopher, I mentioned to him that we were going to be taping this podcast, and this is kind of funny to me. He had no idea that you were from here. He had no idea you were a Gopher football player. He's a big golf guy. He's like, how'd you get him? Why is Mark Dusbabek? And I was like, well, he's Teresa's, we know Teresa, of course, your sister, brother, and he's from Faribault, and he played with Daryl, and he's like, Mark Dusbabek, really? He had no idea. But so you're known for that as well. But occasionally you'll have to, Jim Nance will say, hey, Mark, what happened out on, and you'll have a ruling explanation. More often, though, we'll just see you with a walkie-talkie, and some player will be there wondering about a lie. Can he move the ball? Can he drop? Whatever. So how much is that of your job, and how often and how tricky can that be to have to explain to a player what the ruling might be?
So I've transitioned now into this new position, where the new position is now the TV rules analyst and the video TV rules and video analyst
Right.
is what it is. And so I'm trying to build on the TV rules, just like other sports. They have a rules analyst that sits there and handles any calls that they may see for TV. So I am doing that role
Right.
now. So that's primarily my job. So I don't have to be in the field as much. And then what I'm trying to do is set up the whole video review system that we're going to have built in our headquarters in Ponte Vedra Beach. So
Right.
that's going to cover all of our tournaments. Hopefully it will be within a year or two, but we're going to have people monitoring screens. And I just met with the guy from the NHL a few weeks ago to discuss how they do it and try to learn from them and build it into our PGA Tour thing. But as far as doing a ruling, I mean, that's for TV. It's a little bit more difficult because when Jim brings me in, I
Yeah.
better know the answer, and I'm hoping that it all goes clean.
The rule book's what, like almost 600 pages?
It's a big document when you get into all the interpretations of the rules, come almost like case studies of it. So yeah, it's hard. It's taken a lot of years of studying it. Sometimes you go blank. You're on the road a lot, and you're in time changes, and you may be not thinking clearly that
Right.
day, and so you always have your radio to go to somebody else for help, but when you're on TV, you don't.
Right, yeah. So you better know, right? That's and I guess as a sidebar to that, the times on the tour when you've had to make a ruling like that, and in essence, pretty much the rules are cut and dried. There's some interpretation. Have you ever had a case where after the tournament you find out, man, I ruled that incorrectly, or is it just such a cut and dried, you're on the money most of the time?
As much as you'd like it to be black and white, there's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to make a decision, and it could be right, it could be wrong. But yeah, there isn't a referee out there in any sport that hasn't made a mistake. So you just hope you minimize them. You hope you don't have them very frequently, and you hope it doesn't cost a player anything. So yeah, I've had to go to players before and tell them that, hey man, I shouldn't have given you relief there. That was on me, and this is actually what the ruling is. But it hasn't been anything, knock on wood, too serious so far. So.
Because, I suppose if it's an ump in baseball and you call a strike a ball or vice versa, the pitcher might get mad or the batter might get mad, but then there's a pitch immediately. But, if you happen in golf, if you're, maybe having to give a penalty, 2 strokes could be the difference for a big kind of payday, right? So it could be that your decision might have a bigger impact than a block charge on a, middle of the second half of a basketball game, right?
Normally it wouldn't be something that would involve a penalty, though. It would be more of whether you gave him relief or not. And that would be the gray area. And that can be a decision that the referee in the field has to make that decision. There was a situation last year in Memphis, I remember. I was in the TV booth, and our referee at the time was Ken Tackett doing the ruling with Bryson DeChambeau, and I remember it looked really bad. It looked bad, but it was the correct ruling. And trying to let the people know, and I know social media can blow up on things, but honestly, they don't know the rules. So trying to interpret it from Ken's side and trying to explain it to the viewer, you do your best you can, but people have to understand that you're making the right ruling. It just doesn't look good because you maybe don't like that player, you don't like the reason that
Yeah, and I guess that's another question too, in terms of, having you have to handle it in a diplomatic way, but sometimes you have to be the bearer of bad news. Sometimes if a player wants relief and isn't sure, and you give it to them, I'm sure they're thankful as well. But how careful do you have to be about being too buddy-ish with some golfers, but at the same time, knowing them or even socializing with them? Is there a guideline there for officials on that line?
For all the young officials that have come up right now, our officials, to be a referee on the PGA Tour, you have to work the Korn Ferry first, and then the Korn Ferry you'd move up to the PGA Tour. You kind of cut your teeth, so to speak, and come up and get some experience with us. As I told one of the younger guys, is that you need to get to know these people because you're going to be with them for 20 years. So you might as well have a relationship. You don't have to be friends with them, and you probably shouldn't be friends with them, but you'd be able to sit down, have lunch with them, have breakfast with them, and talk to them, and talk about something outside of golf.
Yeah.
Just Maybe the kid went to the University of Minnesota, like Eric Van Rooyen.
Sure.
So you want to talk to them and just get to know them, so you can address them on a personal level when you go and do the ruling, and they know that you don't have anything against them. It's just a business.
It's the rule.
You're trying to do a rule, and you're trying to make the best. I'm sorry, it goes against you on this, but I can't do anything about it. But I think it's important that you don't cross that line. You're not buddies with them. You're never going to be buddies with them. But that's okay. But you do have a working relationship with them, and you'll see them every week. You'll see them. They'll address you in the airports and hotels or whatever. You may be staying at the same places, but. There's a fine line there, and I just prefer not to cross it.
And from that angle, is generally most of the guys, I'm not going to ask you to, hey, who are the real jerks, but generally, is it most of the guys handle the situations pretty well?
Yeah. There's golfers. Listen, I've told golfers that who have complained about things. I don't care if you pitch.
Yeah.
I don't care if you want to get mad at me or whatever. I was an emotional player too, and so I don't mind if you give emotions. In golf, we tend to want to internalize everything and hold it all within. That's not healthy either. I don't care if you go off on me, but just know, if you cross the line, and I've done this, and I go meet them in scoring, and I'm going to give a piece of my mind to them, and they're not going to like it.
They won't enjoy that part of it for sure.
But it changes their relationship with me later, where they respect me now, and that's all I want. I want them just to respect me.
Yeah,
I respect them.
No question. And golf is too, right? Maybe a more unique sport. I think. I'm not saying that in other sports people are willing cheaters, but maybe you try to gain an edge even on the rules. Where in golf, in general, it seems, especially at the pro level, the integrity is such a key part where guys will issue their own penalties on themselves without even maybe bringing you in or wanting to make sure, hey, before I hit this, I want to make sure. And it's almost some self-governance there, which is different, right, than football or basketball or anything else, it seems, where you're trying to maybe take advantage of a rule. And I'm not saying every golfer's that way, but it seems most have that edge that way to them.
Yeah, nobody's going to cheat out there. But for instance, my dad he watches golf 24/7.
Yeah.
So he asked me a question the other day that he saw somebody mark their ball and lift it off the putting green. He said, well, that's not allowed. Why would they do it? I said, Dad, everybody's watching. They wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for a reason. Now, these are the reasons why they would have done it. So it had to have been one of those. You're just not aware of what the situation was. But nobody would blatantly go out and do that. It's just not what happens.
Yeah, and I know there's been times too where accidentally, I remember, because I follow Zach Johnson quite a bit. He had that situation. He ended up winning the tournament for him, luckily, and I think it was a Colonial where he marked with his putter and then forgot to remark. He put it on the mark itself. Right. So luckily he won by 3 shots. It's a 2-shot penalty. He holds on and wins. But that's the other thing. People watching on TV, I get a little bit of a kick out of it, because you think about, we'll watch the Gophers play football, and I'm announcing the game, and I'll sometimes say, well, that's a hold. I want to call in, and but in golf it really does happen. People will call in, and you can retroactively issue a ruling on a play, right?
So yeah, not so much anymore, but we don't take the call-ins like that. but that what you're referring to is Zach Johnson. We were in our rules trailer was just left of the 18th green there at Colonial, and so we saw it on TV. Called the official who was right there at the green to go out and tell Zach, you need to put the ball back, or put the mark back, so you could. I'll tell you a funny story real quick about Zach. I love Zach, but Zach called me for a ruling on the 16th green at Augusta 2 years ago, and so I went out there for the ruling, and it was a very simple ruling, but we sat there and we were talking, and he's asking me questions, and I came in later that day, and one of the people from Augusta, from the tournament side, asked me. He said, I couldn't hear the audible side of it, what he was asking you, but you guys talked for a long time. What did he want? I said, well, he just was he was just rubbing it in because Iowa beat Minnesota last Saturday.
Oh man,
You had to pour salt in the wound.
Yeah, we got to win the pig this year, so you can get back at him in football for sure. That's it's interesting because I grew up in Iowa, and Zach's grandparents actually went to the church I went to. His dad and I graduated from high school many years apart, but the same high school. So that's why I follow him and why I remembered that ruling. And he seems like a good guy. He's going to be the Ryder Cup captain, which is pretty cool in Italy, I think next summer, right? But that story doesn't surprise me because I do know that he follows that team down there for sure. And so he calls you out for a ruling and has to rub it in that the Hawkeyes beat the Gophers. Unbelievable. Well, let's get the pig this September. I guess it's November, and we'll then you can ask him about that.
By the way, Zach, you are playing at the Masters right now.
Yeah.
You need to concentrate.
Yeah, let's worry about the 16th green here, right? No doubt. So it's moved away a little from the call-in TV because there's just so much more access to see things.
Right. Sometimes we can see something, or sometimes one of our representatives can call us and tell us that they saw something. So that's something. But as far as the general public, we used to handle all that stuff, and it just got to be chasing a lot of erroneous things. So.
Right. And maybe once in every now and then it happens. I always got a kick when I'm like, well, how do they know even what number to call? Like, who do you call?
Exactly.
Like, if you see something and somehow somebody figures it out. But now social media does offer the opportunity, right, for anybody to have a voice. And so does that ever impact? Do you ever get whether it's a tweet or a social media posting that, hey, you guys should check this out?
First of all, I am not on social media, so I will not.
That's good, right?
Yeah, I refuse to go on it because I don't want to hear. Like I said, people don't understand what is actually going on. I think it would be best if we had a social media account that we could share what actually happened.
Rulings? Like NHL has that right now.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on one of those right now. I'm working with the PGA Tour to form something like this right now where we have a voice that goes immediately to social media to let everybody know what the ruling was and why it was what it, and who the official was. So if there is some form of follow up on it, this is the official, this is who you can contact from our media department, and we can get an answer.
Yeah.
So it's more transparency from our part, and I think that would be really good. There's many times that we go do a ruling, we drive underneath the rope and go out and do a ruling with with Tiger Woods over on the right-hand side, which no spectators are over there. You come back and everybody wants to know, what was it? What was the ruling you just gave? That would be more transparency where we can give that public information.
Just to explain it, and generally, then it would, I would think, help everyone with their rule knowledge too. You mentioned Tiger, and you don't have to specifically talk about him, but have you over the years ever had any like big run-ins with anybody, or have you been able to kind of maintain a good, where a player was just adamant that what you wanted to have happen was not the right ruling?
Yeah, but it was more about pace of play, I think, where I have to time the group. So there's a financial penalty to these players if they get timed so many times or warned so many times during the year, and it can be extensive and enough to affect them. So they want to. They're very cautious, or they're very cognizant of how many times they've been timed. But like I said, once again, it's a matter of. I know what the information is. I can see we've been talking about this group for 2 holes. I've been watching them for 2 holes. I know who the slow player is. I've been timing him on my own and know what his times are. When I step in to time them, there's no question that you deserve it.
You've got the facts.
I got the facts.
Yeah.
And so if they want to complain and they make a scene of it, what I usually try to do to diffuse it is that, I'm happy to talk to you in scoring afterwards. And so then I'll clear everybody out of the scoring. He and I can go at it, and we can just. But listen, once again, I'm just doing my job.
Right, exactly.
You got to do yours, I'll do mine.
Yeah. And is it usually if you do have a run-in of some sort that, like has anybody ever carried and you don't have to mention names, but have you had issues where players have just continued to think you're out to get them, or has it usually been smoothed over in one way, shape, or form over
No, I've never had that. I think other officials have, but that's where I try to help the younger guys where they need to establish these relationships. not friendships, but just relationships. Right. And I think that it goes a long way to be able to address somebody and talk to them and get there's a couple, we were in Puerto Rico earlier this year, and there's some Korn Ferry officials that were with us, and I was trying to get them to understand this concept that we had a very loud person that was playing that really was adamant, and he refused the ruling from this official because he didn't know that person. He wanted to speak to me because I was the one that he knew. Mm-hmm. I met with him, talked to him, explained the whole ruling. He understood it then. I went back to this younger official to tell him that, you need to go talk to them. You need to have this relationship because he thinks that you don't know what you're doing. So you need to establish that history with them.
As you have now, gotten this experience and established this professional, relationships as well. Now it becomes how often how many do you work every tournament? I mean, that's a long season now. So what is the schedule like for you?
We have approximately 46 events, I think. And as I mentioned, the advanced role, I still do advance two events. I advance Maui and I advance the tournament in Japan. So other than that, I do approximately 13 or 14 of the CBS broadcast ones for the TV side. Mm-hmm. I do 4 of the NBC ones for the broadcast side. And then when it's all said and done, I work 24 weeks.
Gotcha.
So it's enough where you might work 2-3 weeks in a row, especially since I live on the West Coast. It's easy for me to go to Palm Springs, San Diego, Pebble Beach, LA, Riviera. So I love working the West Coast swing. Yeah. And the Hawaii events.
Yeah, good one on advance, right, to Maui.
Oh, yeah. It's Christmas away, but where would I want to go?
Right. So. Do you, because I used to, when I was in St. Louis, I used to cover spring training, and I'd go down to Jupiter, and the Honda was always during that time down there, which is a sidebar, but everyone would say, oh, man, you get to go to spring training. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm waking up at 6 in the morning because the players do their interviews in the morning, and I got to get audio and do interviews for my show, which is at 8 o'clock Eastern time that night, and it's not a vacation. So I joked with you a little bit about, you get to go to Maui. Do you, though, at least at some point get some free time to either hit the beach or go have a nice meal? Time. Is it a work the whole? And people probably tease you about that. They think you're just out, you walk the golf course, but you're in this advanced role. That seems like that's hard work.
My wife Trish has traveled with me. She'll go to the great ones like Maui. Sure. I don't go to Maui without her. Yeah. Well, she's gone to Japan with me. She's gone to England with me. But she'll go to these tournaments, and it provides me an opportunity or a reason to stay after for another week afterwards or something if I have the week off. And we then go sightseeing. Yep. Or we'll do something. We'll go in a couple days early, or during the week, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm going until it gets dark, and so there's no time. It's not a fun week. It's all business. It's all work, long hours. And there's so many time changes from the West Coast that it takes you 2-3 days just to adjust to the time zone. Right. I remember one time I was working in Malaysia, and my mom was sick at the time, and I got a call from my dad it was like 2 in the morning, and I'm, oh my God, something happened to my mom. And Dad, what's wrong? What's wrong? He goes, oh, nothing's wrong. I'm just calling to tell you the Gophers beat Nebraska.
Which is big news. That's big news.
It's 2 in the morning.
It's 2 in the morning here. Yeah. I would see. Yeah. So the time change can that's a good one. But you were happy, I suppose, once you got the news, right? Yeah, exactly. And then from that standpoint, you've got the 24 tournaments. What is a typical day now? So you've shifted more into the TV thing. So what would a Saturday at Augusta be like then for you?
Well, Augusta's different because Augusta, I'm a guest official.
Gotcha.
So I will be a rover on the front 9 or the back 9. I will be in a cart. We have referees from the USGA and the PGA of America who sit at holes, and they'll handle rulings that happen to be near them. We will handle pace of play, the PGA Tour officials, and we'll be in carts, and we'll go out and we'll do pace of play. We'll time the players if they're slow, or we'll come in and do second opinions. A lot of times at a major, there'll be second opinions because the players don't know the official that's given them the ruling.
Sure.
So there's not that trust factor or the belief factor. So they like to go with somebody that they recognize.
Yeah.
And so that happens, and we that's most of my rulings at Augusta. This week, I will go into tomorrow morning on Tuesday, and I will be I'll go from probably 8:30 until 5 o'clock. It'll be meetings. It'll be driving the golf course, getting familiarized with what rule situations are out there, the temporary movable obstructions, how are we going to help solidify or finalize the rules, the local rules for this event. Wednesday will be the Pro-Am. I'll go in super early that day, 5:30 probably, and stay there throughout. But we'll have a couple meetings that day as well. And then Thursday, Friday, it'll be the same thing. It'll be a 5:30 arrival until the last ball falls. Then Saturday and Sunday, it'll be a little easier for me because I'll go into the TV, the edit truck, and I'll work.
In a typical tournament, how many times might you talk about a ruling on the air then?
Saturday, not as much as Sunday. Sunday, it's usually, there's a lot of things I'm doing behind the scenes, but as far as TV is concerned, like CBS, I will be on maybe once or twice a day.
Yeah.
But I am communicating. I'm looking at all the screens of all the holes, and I'm communicating to our officials and helping them out with where the ball just went. And I see they're searching over here on number 5. They're going to request an official. This is where the ball is. I can see where it is. I can see where it went. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's awesome too. I mean, I'm so fascinated by it all. So now you get, I guess, your home state tournament here, the 3M Open. Now, what did that start in 2018, 2019? Of course, it was a Champions or Tour Champions event before that. We mentioned already that how busy it can be because you got, I'm sure, friends and former Gopher teammates. I think you got dinner with Ray Hitchcock, it sounds like, coming up as well, one of our all-time favorites. But then it becomes the business of golf. But do you take a moment to say, this is great for Minnesota golf, it's great for my home state, and it's great for you as a Minnesotan to be back, officiating here? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love it. In fact, I want to see more people, like Randall McDaniel. I can't wait to see him. I'll probably see him out there at some point, and Rich Gannon, I think, is going to be out there as well. So I look forward to seeing those guys and just catching up. But you're here to work, and it's just so great for the state of Minnesota because I know growing up here how important golf is here, and I know how much people love golf here. And I just am glad to see that the PGA Tour finally recognized that and understands that we have a huge market here. And we have, whether it's the Fortune 500 companies or the popularity of the sport with the general public here. But they need to stay here. They need to continue to grow it here. So there's a plethora of great golf courses to play here. Yep. Whether you're going up north, we used to do family vacations up in the Brainerd area, and it had to center around where the golf course was, or some of my friends who are members at various clubs here that I get to go enjoy. And obviously with the Ryder Cup in 2016, and then another one coming up. Were you involved? Do you get involved with the Ryder Cup? Do you get to take part? What a great event, right? Yeah, the Ryder Cup is run by the PGA of America and the DP World Tour now. But now that we've had a little a buy-in with a partnership with the DP, so we are going down that road. I don't know. We probably will have an involvement later, but right now it's their event, and so I don't work there. So, but have you been able to watch or attend some? I've never attended. I'd really. It's when I travel 200 some days a year that I want to go. It's good to watch on TV sometimes. But I will watch, because I'm a golf fan. I'm a golf. Right. I love the game of golf, and so I will. I sat there all day yesterday and watched with my dad the Open Championship. Yeah. So. I'm still a fan of it. And so that, I think 2029, I think it was 28, but COVID has pushed everything back here. So I think that's back to the Ryder Cup is back to Minnesota here in 2029. You mentioned you love golf. I might be retired by then. It might be. Well, then you could, you could even come and attend it. Were you a golfer? You mentioned you golfed when you were growing up. Were you a good golfer? Do you still golf? Do you still swing the sticks? Is that kind of why you had the passion for the game? I
I was decent. I mean, I wouldn't say I was great. I've always kept a single digit handicap. I got down to as low as 1.2. I think was my lowest.
Yeah.
But listen, these guys that are out here are just beyond.
It's crazy.
But I was more of a recreational buddy. Golf nut. So,
what do you think fed into your feeling of passion to the game and to lead you to this path to do what you're doing now?
I think it's still just the competitive sports background that I have. I'm very competitive, and I like the challenge of putting it all on me and trying to play a certain way and putting the pressure on myself to perform.
Yeah. Speaking of that competitive nature, so you grew up in Faribault, star high school football player, and you go to Minnesota, and smaller town kid. Can he play in the Big Ten? And all you do is you go in and earn a starting job as a freshman, right?
Yeah, well, Joe Salem was the coach at the time, and they weren't going to give me a scholarship. In fact, Ray Hitchcock and I were the last two scholarships they gave in 1983, and so I remember I came for my visit, and he was going to have me walk on, and I told him I wasn't walking on. I said I'm walking on at Michigan. I've already been talking to Coach Schembeckler, and I'm walking on at Michigan. And he goes, well, if I gave you a scholarship, will you come? And I said, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it all worked out.
That was a good poker hand you had there, wasn't it? That was great. That was
true.
It was true. That's good. So you start as a freshman, and then you work along. You become teammates with Ray Hitchcock. Our buddy Daryl Thompson is around as well. I think you're, a year or two older than him, or closer to the
I think
same
I'm
age?
2 years older.
2 years older, and you work your way into a starting spot. Lou Holtz shows up. How did that change, and what are some of your favorite memories as a Golden Gopher 4-year letter winner?
I think it's mostly the friendships and the relationships I had. In fact, when my daughter, Sasha, went to Cal, and she was nervous going off to school, and she went to this private school in North Hollywood, and I told her that your best friends that you have in your life will come from college. They'll come because you have relationships with them, and you'll go through so much more in your life with them, and you'll have them everlasting. Ray Hitchcock, Daryl Thompson, Dave Williams, Pete Nigerian, Eric Forrest, those are my best friends. We lived together for 4 or 5 years together, and we went through a lot together. Lou Holtz, I ran into him at the Tahoe Celebrity event years ago, and I hadn't seen him since he left for Notre Dame in 1985, and hadn't spoken to him since, but we had a long talk together, and we exchanged phone calls and emails for then every year after that. And I just appreciated the things that as a coach and as a teacher he was, and what he did for me personally, not related to football. It was more of a mentoring thing. And my coach, Bishop Harris, who was my linebacker coach at the Gophers, I still stay in touch with him. And it's the things that they did for me that helped me through life that was more appreciative. And so that's what I look as. My mother was a kindergarten teacher for 40 years, and I think that a coach is the same way. You can influence people in so many positive ways, and how you can affect them in their life beyond that short little span in their life where they're playing football, which in the grand scheme of things can mold your way for life, but it's not the most important thing. Lou Holtz used to say, yeah, we lost the game, but there are billions of people around the world that have never even knew you even played.
Right.
So look at it that way.
Yeah, and of course he went on to Notre Dame. Was that a shot? Did that hurt when he decided to leave? Because I remember it as well. The program was starting to get some buzz, right? I think the spring game sold out, and then it's the one place I think that he had an escape clause. So how did you and your teammates handle that?
Yeah, it hurt. It hurt because we did finally get some momentum where we were starting to be a big deal within the Big Ten, and we were always a laughingstock in the first couple of years. So we were on the cusp of breaking through, and I think that it did hurt us then. It hurt recruiting. He was a fabulous recruiter, and people like Ricky Foggy coming from South Carolina.
Right.
Come on. many kids from Texas or California or Ohio or Pennsylvania. We were getting some of the best people, and it was no longer what it was before. So that hurt us, and we took a step back, I think. So I think that us, like Ray and myself, that group that were seniors, it hurt us because we were really looking forward to, we paid our dues, we're really looking forward to busting through and making a big deal, and then it just kind of suddenly came to a stop.
Yeah, because it was hard, right, to just to kind of zap some momentum, and nothing against the guys that took over, but Lou was Lou. He was a little different guy that was able to kind of build stuff, right?
Well, I think it was the persona. We heard all the stories a million times, but his persona and his relationship in the business community, and like I said, the recruiting aspect, he was able to pull people from all over. John Gutekunst, who took over for him, is who we petitioned to have take the job. He later, I remember one of my teammates, Norris Wilson, went off to be the head coach at Columbia, and Norris was a great player.
I love Norris.
I love Norris. and Norris had John Gutekunst on his staff there, so I went over in New York and met with them. It just wasn't the same, though. It wasn't the same because of the cachet that went with Lou Holtz.
Yeah, exactly. Norris is, of course, on PJ Fleck's staff now as the kind of oversees alumni and some player development stuff, and I always get a kick out of him. He's a pretty cool dude. Yeah, no doubt. All right, so 86, you guys beat Michigan. You and Ricky Foggy, he makes the big run in the fourth quarter. Chip Lohmiller, right, kicks the field goal. Ray Christensen says there's pandemonium on the field. Which is exciting for everybody, but I've now got some sources that tell me for the Dusbabek family, that might not even have been the most exciting thing that happened at Michigan Stadium that day. So you have to tell us this story.
This is a great story. I had played a really good game. And
your sister told me she thought it might have been your best game as a Gopher. Would you concur?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, all right.
Who said that, Teresa?
Yeah. She said
Michigan State, I think, was my best
Michigan
game.
State, all right. Well, so maybe a top game.
Okay.
Certainly a great win,
game.
right?
I got interviewed by Sports Illustrated afterwards, which to me was the top, right?
Yeah.
So I remember coming out of the stadium and after the interview, and I thought I played a good game, and my sister Julie comes running up to me, and I think she's going to congratulate me, right? And she said, Mark, Dad just beat up somebody in the stands. So apparently after Chip kicked the field goal, my sisters, my mom and dad, who traveled to every game, that was great to see them at every game with Daryl's parents, and Ray Hitchcock's dad was there, and right next to my dad, and Rayburn Hitchcock was an attorney, and he was right there supporting my dad because this guy pushed my sister down. And my dad grabbed him and had him around the neck and had it cocked. My dad was a former Golden Gloves boxer and was ready to take the guy out. So, it was quite the deal in Michigan Stadium.
Oh, man. So the Michigan guy was not happy the Gophers won, and he was taking it out on your sister?
That's all right. He pushed my sister down.
And your dad said that's enough, and the guy got the bad end of the deal,
right,
it sounds
right.
like.
You don't mess with my dad.
That's something else. That is something else. Daryl also mentioned that. I had to ask you about that because he told me that his dad, because you mentioned that your parents and Daryl's parents would go to games together, road games and stuff, and hang out at home games. And he goes, much to my dad's amazement, Mark's dad beat the dude up.
George Thompson and his wife and my mom and dad would. It was great because they could share riding. My dad had a van, and they all jumped in the car on Friday and took off for the games, and they got to see a lot of great stadiums, and that was a treat to them.
Yeah, and build these great. You mentioned like college. Your college friends become your friends for life, and then it's fun how that kind of works out too. Those two couples would have never probably met and became good friends.
That's right. That's right.
Pretty cool. All right, so you go from the Gophers, you get drafted in the NFL to Houston, and then make your way back to Minnesota. You become a starter for the Vikings. Take us through your time with the Purple.
So I had 2 long years in Houston. My first year I got hurt, and so I was on injury reserve. The second year I was healthy, and they wouldn't play me, and so I was frustrated, and I wanted to play. They had then started that was 1980. After the '88 season, they started for the first year Plan B free agency. So I became a free agent. Houston wanted to sign me under the table, and I just wasn't comfortable with it, and I wasn't sure if that would be if I could trust them, I guess. So I went to about 5 or 6 teams to see what my value was or what opportunities I had. Minnesota was not that interested, and Monty Kiffin was the linebacker coach. Pete Carroll was the defensive coordinator, or was the defensive back coach. So they had a great staff. Jerry Burns was awesome, but Bill Parcells wanted me the most.
At the Giants.
Yep. He was at the Giants. He had me out there. He was offering me the most money. But he just made it frank. He said, listen, you're not going to start. You're going to be behind Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks. But you're going to be here for a long time. You're just going to be a backup. But I really want you. So on the last day of signing, I left my mom and dad's house in Faribault, and I drove up to the airport, and I met my agent, Barty Harris, there, and we were flying to New York. It was the last day of signing, and I had to meet Parcells in New York that afternoon. Barney decided to call the Vikings one last time and just see what if they would change their mind. And they matched the offer of New York, and so I made a decision at the time that I think my chances to play would be more at Minnesota. It had nothing to do with being home, because I know that can be sometimes an element that could drive you down the wrong way. And after my bad 2 years in Houston, all I wanted to do is have a chance, and I didn't want to be distracted or taken away from what the importance of trying to play. So I chose it because I thought it was the best opportunity for me. It was the best chance I had to play, and it worked out well.
Yeah, and you started and had an impact, and then injuries and at that time, the medicine has gotten so much better now, surgeries and everything, and you blow out a knee now, and gosh, guys are back in 7-8 months. But back then, if it was the wrong kind of knee injury, that was it, right?
Yeah, everybody's body heals differently too, and for some reason I could not shake it, and I just every time I would try to, I switched doctors, and I went to this knee, Dr. Stedman up in Vail, Colorado, and I spent almost 7-8 months there trying to rehab my knee and get it better, and it just would always tear something again. It would always cause me issues. So I realized that I got a couple offers after the Vikings released me. I got a couple offers from Detroit and Tampa, and I couldn't pass a physical, so that was the end of the story.
That was it.
I had to find a new job.
Then it was on to the Nigerians in Chicago, and before you know it, you're doing golf tournaments, right?
Life has a certain way of sending you in the direction it's supposed to go.
You mentioned Monty Kiffin and Pete Carroll and Jerry Burns. What were those guys like? Obviously, they all had pretty good success. You have any good stories?
Living in Los Angeles for almost 25 years now, I got to know Pete and Monty. Obviously when they were at the Vikings, but I stayed in touch with them when they were at USC. And listen, I've always wanted, I love those guys, and I love the way they think, and I used to pick their brain all the time because I wanted to be a coach. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to do when I finished. I wanted to be a football coach. And I had talked to Mike Diamond was our he wasn't the general manager. Maybe he was the general manager.
Yeah. VP or something. Yeah,
exactly. So I always talk to him about, hey, when I retire, man, I want to get hired by you guys. I want to go into like the Scott Studwell role. Sure. Scott was my idol, and I wanted to take that on. It didn't end up that way, but I always picked their brains because they were so creative, so innovative, and I loved their thinking on how they would break down an offense and how to attack them.
You mentioned Studwell. Of course, he still does stuff. I mean, I think he still might have an office at the new facility too. I don't think he's in the day-to-day stuff anymore. And what was he like? Did he help? When you came in as a young guy, as a leader of the team?
So when I decided not to go to New York, and I didn't have a place. I'd moved up from Houston. I staying at my mom and dad's house until I could find an apartment, and I would drive up every morning early to go work out at the Viking facility at Winter Park. And Scott would be in there first one in the morning, and he saw me in there every day, and he finally came up to me and he said, listen, I'm here at this time. If you want somebody to work out with, this is the time I'm here. And I started working out with him. And then after that, and I got more comfortable, then Scott took me in and started helping me with how you break down film, how do you study tendencies. And then it became a game for me where I loved knowing the percentages. If they come out in this formation, if they motion to this, if they have this personnel, what is the percentage on this side of the field, what play they're going to run. It's going to be a 34% chance, blah, blah, blah. So Scott taught me all that stuff, and I love him for that. It really made me a better player, made me feel more comfortable out there. I became a smarter player, and I think that the greatest players who extend their longevity of their careers, they lose their physicalness, their physical attributes, their speed, their quickness, whatever. However, their mind picks up and gets them in the right spot faster. And that was Scott. Scott wasn't the biggest, Scott wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the quickest, but he was the smartest. And he could sit there and the great minds of Monty and Pete and Floyd Peters, their defense coordinator, Scott could look at something on the board that they put up and he'd say, yeah, that's not going to work.
Really?
Right from the start.
He knew.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Have you stayed in touch with him a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
That's great.
I just read his book the other day. I finished it a couple months ago.
Yeah, we interviewed him. I interviewed him when that book came out. It was so fun to get to know him, we knew of him obviously, but just to hear some of the background and how his upbringing, created the guy that he was as well. Well, Mark, we'll let you go. It's been so fun here to chat with you on a busy week. I know you got a lot of people pulling at different directions because you don't get to, because of your travel schedule, get to come home all the time. So to spend some time here, I think Gopher fans are going to love listening or have loved listening to some of the memories and to find out, what great success you've had.
Well, I hope to be back in November for a Gopher game, so maybe I'll see you then.
Let us stop up and see Daryl and I and we'll have you on the air. We'll talk
Thank
a little
you so
bit.
much. I
Awesome.
appreciate
Good
it.
to see you.
All right.
My thanks to former Golden Gopher linebacker Mark Dusbabek of Faribault for sharing his time with us on this week's Go Gopher podcast, episode number 28. I know you enjoyed hearing from Mark, and we appreciate his time during a very busy week. The Go Gopher podcast is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. We're also sponsored by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. Brandon Morton is our producer and technical expert. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please be sure to subscribe to the Go Gopher podcast right now. It's absolutely free to listen at any time. We'll talk again next week.